So now that we have all of our software installed, let's go ahead and install our first virtual machine. This screencast is kind of a dual purpose. It's designed for IT 1100 and IT 4300. So the first thing that we have to do is we have to go to our virtual machine farm. We're going to go to vm.cs.dixie.edu, and then we're going to log in. Using our CIT login credentials. Okay, the first thing that we need to do is we need to create what we call our base address. So if you look here, if you're in IT 1100, then what you need to do is that number right there, the first numbers is your base address. And if you're in IT 4300, then you'll have a line that says IT 4300, and that will be your base address. So right now I'm making a note on a piece of paper what my base address is. In my instance, it's going to be 144.38.212.120. So that is my base address. That is my address. That is not your address. So if I look here, what I've got here is I have 3 machines that are running. Notice how they're in green. If they are not in green, that means they are not running. So let's first clean this up and get rid of that SQL machine so I can recreate it. So the first thing that we have to do is we have to give our new machine a name. And you could call it Linux, or you could call it SQL, or you could call it whatever you want. And I'm deleting that machine now. So right now I'm going to create a new machine. Those of you in IT 1100 should probably just say Linux. Those of you in IT 4300 should say something like SQL or LAMP or something of that nature. You need 256 megabytes of memory for a Linux machine to run. Here under hard disk, you need 4 gigabytes for IT 1100 because we aren't really storing a lot. And we probably need to go up to about 6 gigabytes for our machines on IT 4300 since we're going to create databases. Now the next thing here under VLAN, mostly the IT 1100 people will have that defaulted. Notice my VLAN here is 3176, so I need to make sure that I have that defined there. So I'm going to create a machine called SQL, 256 megabytes of memory, 6 gigabytes of hard disk space, and 3176 is my virtual LAN. Typically this will be configured for you. So I'm going to click on the little plus sign, and that will create a machine. So it's creating the machine now. When it creates a machine, notice how it's red. That means the machine is not running. What I need to do is start that machine up, but that machine has a problem. It's got no operating system on the disk. So what do you do when you're installing an operating system? You boot to the CD drive, which is drive D, and you put a CD in the tray, and I'm going to put the PreciseNet Unix CD in the tray. So this is booting to the CD with this CD in the tray, and I'm going to click on it, and that will start it up. So here in a minute it will start the machine up. And here is my machine. It looks like it's on Ophelia, so I'm going to write down that OPHELIA colon and then 6219. Okay, so now what I need to do is I need to see what is on that machine. It would be nice if I could see what was on the machine. So I am going to go to my drive, see where I installed type VNC. So I'm going to go to type VNC and I'm going to run this jar file. And the host name is the name that I've created, which is Ophelia. And it needs to be lowercase. Ophelia. And the port number is going to be 6219. Now that's my machine, that's not your machine. If you are going from home, you need to use an SSH tunnel. If you are not, then you don't need to. The SSH server involved is going to be ssh.cs.dixie.edu, and the username is going to be your CIT username there. So I am attaching to Ophelia port number 6219 using SSH, and then I'm going to connect. And it's warning me that I haven't connected to this machine before. And it wants to know my password to get through the firewall, so I'll type in my password. And here is my machine. So let's make this window just a little bit bigger so that we can see it. And I'll click here. And hopefully if I can click in there. There we go. Okay, first question it asks is what language do I want this in, and I'm going to pick English. And you need United States English since there are several different variants of English. Next thing it wants to know is keyboard. Let's not detect the keyboard, and let's just say it's an English keyboard. That's the quickest way through that. Okay, at this point it's trying to do DHCP through IP version 6, and it is going to fail since I don't have a DHCP server, but we can just wait patiently while it fails, or I can hit enter to cancel it, and it'll tell me it failed, which is normal. Now what I need to do is I need to configure this network manually. So I'm going to click on configure network manually. First thing it asks for is my IP address. I'm going to type in my base address that I got, 144.38.212.120. Now that's my address, that's not your address. This IP address actually needs to be your base address plus 2. So 144.38.212.122. That's my address, that's not yours. So that is this address right here plus 2. And then I'm going to continue on here. The net mask is 255, 255, 255, and the last digit is 248. That controls what computers you can see and whether or not your computer is visible to other people. And that's what the systems administrator has set up for us. If you want more information about net masking, then you can take IT 2400 and they will go into depth about how to do that. Okay, the gateway is going to be your base address plus 1. You'll have your own gateway. That's my gateway. Next thing is we need name servers. So it's 144.38.192.2 and 144.38.192.3. A DNS is a domain name server, and what that does is it translates www.dixie.edu to its IP address, which is 144.38.192. something or another, and that way you don't have to memorize all those numbers. So to get that set up, you have to type in those two addresses. It is so important that we actually have two name servers. Here's the first one and here's the second one. That way if one goes down, we have a backup. So we will go on. And our host name, what we will do, I like to create, this is the prompt that you will see all the time. And I just type in my CIT username, and for IT 1100 I would put Linux, and for IT 4300 I'd put SQL for Structured Query Language. Okay, then the domain name doesn't really matter. IT4300.cs.dixie.edu is great for 4300. IT1100.cs.dixie.edu is great for IT1100, but we really don't use domains, so it doesn't make any difference. So anything would work there. Okay, the next thing is we want to use our mirror. So what we're going to do is I can actually get the Linux operating system off of the internet, but that's a little bit slow. It would be easier if we had our own mirror, which we do, and the way to get to it is you hit the A key, which goes clear up to the top. Then you hit the up arrow and enter this information manually, and then you're going to go mirror.cs.dixie.edu. That is using our own internal mirror. That way we don't have to download anything off of the internet. So we hit enter. The archive mirror is Ubuntu, and we aren't using proxies, so we hit enter there. And then we stare at this cute little purple screen for approximately 3 to 5 minutes. I can't figure out why it is doing that, but it is definitely doing that. So we wait patiently. And we are waiting patiently. Did you know Christmas is coming in just 3 months? Has everybody got their Christmas shopping done? We're waiting here patiently for our virtual machine to configure itself. So we wait patiently, talk about Christmas, talk about the weather, do whatever it takes just to get by this nifty little screen. That takes a while. After we get by this machine, we're about half done. So it's good. We just wait and wait and wait. So why we wait? Do you know how many computer programmers it takes to change a light bulb? The answer is none, because that's a hardware problem. The thought for the day is beware of computer programmers who carry screwdrivers. Programmers aren't supposed to be hardware people. That's my repertoire of my 2 computer jokes. Thought I would share those with you while we wait for this virtual machine to get configured. And it is normal for it to take a while. And we're waiting. And we're still waiting. It should be finished any second now, I'm hoping. And we're still waiting. And again, it is normal for it to take a while. If you see a red screen at this point, then you have an error. That means you typed in one of those TCP IP addresses that is incorrect. Your IP address is your base address +2. The net mask is 255.255.255.248. Let's see, what else should we do? We went through our mirror server was mirror.cs.dixie.edu. And our gateway was our base address +1. And then we got to this point, and then we wait patiently. Or in my case, not so patiently. Okay, and it looks like we passed the test, and it's going ahead and installing everything for us. Now it wants to know our full name, so type in your name. That's my name, not your name. You type in your name. The username, what I would suggest is you use your CIT username, otherwise we will kind of lose track of things. So if you use your CIT username, it's going to make life a lot easier on you. Then it's going to type in your password twice. I would type in your CIT password. Again, that makes life a little bit easier. That's telling me my password is weak. That's okay, it's really not. Encrypt my home directory. If I type yes, that makes your computer more secure. However, that slows things down. Since we're not really doing anything that's secret here, I would rather have the speed, so I'm not going to encrypt my home directory. At this point, it's searching for a clock, and it found that we are in the Denver time zone, which is correct. Okay, now we need to partition the disk. I want to use the entire disk here, and I'm going to select that disk. And then I'm going to write changes to that disk. This is verifying it just in case you have something else on the disk. You want to really do this, and we're going to really do it. Since I just created it, I know I have nothing on it. And then it's going to go through and install everything. It's like we're about 37% done, 38% done. It's like we're roughly half done installing the operating system now. And we are plowing forward. Still downloading and getting everything ready. It's normal for it to kind of pause right here. Basically, you just wait. It says 83% done for quite a while, and then it goes on and pretty much finishes up really rapidly after this point. So it's going to kind of stop at 83% and pause, but then all of a sudden it gets totally done. So it's still trucking right along, waiting patiently. Okay, it looks like it finished that, and it's just plowing forward. Okay, it's configuring what packages we want installed next. At this point, it's going to give us a list of packages that we can select. When it gives us the list of packages that we can select, you need to pay real close attention. Don't hit the Enter key. The Enter key means move forward. We have to select a couple of packages before we move forward. So right here, it's preparing a list of packages for us. And hopefully we will get that list here in just a minute. Looks like it's still installing a bunch of software for us that it thinks we need. It's installing and configuring everything. Okay, do we want security updates? Yes, we want security updates automatically. Linux has problems with people hacking in by guessing your password and then setting up a botnet server. And what a botnet server is it is a server that goes out and looks for Windows installations so that they can install viruses on all those Windows computers out there. So we want to make sure that we automatically install all our security updates. And it keeps on trucking through. Okay, here's our list of software. At this point, freeze, do not hit the enter key, do not pass go. What we need to do is make sure that we have configured the things that we need. So for all of the IT classes, we need the basic server, obviously. Notice how when I hit the space bar, that little asterisk pops up. I can use the down arrow and the up arrow to move the highlight. And for all IT classes, I need the first two, the basic Ubuntu server and the Open SSH server. That allows us to attach to our machines remotely. And then for IT 4300, I need the LAMP server, which stands for Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP. For IT 1100, we don't use that, but for IT 4300, we need that. And since this is a SQL server, I'm going to put that in there. Now that I've verified that I have the 3 asterisks where I want them, then I can hit the enter key to move forward. But you need to make sure that you've got those highlighted. IT 1100 is the first 2. IT 4300 is the first 2 plus LAMP. And then we will move forward, and it installs all that for us. If you get that wrong, then what you have to do is manually install all those, which is a nightmare. It's easier just to have the system do it for you. And we want a password. I would suggest that you just use your standard CIT password here. That way you won't forget it. And we will go on. That prompt was only for IT 4300 students. Since that was part of the MySQL installation, the IT 1100 students won't see that second password prompt there. And we're about 69% done. Looks like it's working on my SQL server now. About 74% done. And moving right along. Come on. %97 done. We're almost there. Okay, yes, we want to install the Grub bootloader. Grub stands for Grand Unified Bootloader. What that does is it starts the computer up. The computer hardware goes through the testing, and then it goes to the hard disk on track 0, sector 0, which is the master boot record. And we are installing the Grub bootloader, which is the Linux version of the bootloader. And we're installing that on track 0, sector 0 of the hard disk. That way when this hard disk starts up, it starts up Linux for us. And then it wants to know about UTC. Time is of not importance to virtual machines. It never works, so it doesn't matter how you've done that. And it says that we are finished, so we'll hit continue. And that will shut your machine down. Now since we're using virtual machines, what we need to do at this point is shut this machine down because it's done installing, and then it will go to a red condition. And then we need to start it up. Only this time we're going to start it up to drive C with no CD in the tray because we've installed the operating system on the hard drive. So now we are starting that up. Okay, and there it is. That's the SQL server. To make sure that I've got it up and working correctly, I am going to go over here to PuTTY, run my PuTTY program, and what I need to do here is I need to go here to SSH and hit tunnel. No, is that right? Okay, so to get to it, it looks like what we first need to do is we need to go up here. I need to create a host name. So the first thing I have to do is I have to attach to ssh.cs.dixie.edu without the V in the middle there. So first of all, I'm going to hop to that machine. Let's go ahead and save this, and I'm going to save it as SSH server. I'm going to save that, and then I'll open that, and I will go ahead and run it, and I'm going to log in as B. Nilsson, and then my password, type in my password, Now notice how I am user B. Nelson on SSH. To connect to my machine, then I need to SSH, my username, and then @ and then my IP address, which is 144.38.212.122. That's my IP address. You will have a different IP address. And yes, we want to continue, and we will type in password again. Now notice how I am now connected to my SQL. And that should complete your setup of your machine. If it will say bnelson-linux, if I were in IT 1100, it would say bnelson-SQL if I created it for my IT 4300. This section right here, the first B. Nelson, is the username that I'm logged into, and then this is the machine name, whatever machine name I gave it. This little squiggly mark here means that you are at your home directory, and the little $sign right there means you are a normal user. There is a Superman user or super user that can be enabled. Basically, you're working with no net, and there would be a $sign there if you were the super user. So if I want to get out at this point, I can exit. That brings me back to my SSH machine, or I can just click on the little X here in the corner and close the session that way. So this concludes this screencast.